Welcome back to the Georgia Show. We're brought to you by the Georgia Record, georgiarecord.com. I'm here with Bill Quinn, my co-host. Bill, thanks for joining me today.
You bet. It's good to be here, Todd.
It is, and it's a good day in Georgia, and I feel, Bill, like we're in the lane. We're headed to where we're supposed to be. We're doing the work we're supposed to be doing, and we're getting a lot of impact and a lot of good feedback. So who do we have today?
Well, we're going to have several of the candidates that are up for election in the coming 3 weeks during the Georgia GOP Convention. Lisa Pierce will be with us, Norine Cantor, and then I was lucky enough to be able to get on Brian K. Pritchard's schedule for this afternoon. He will be joining us. We'll be talking about why this is so important, and the importance escapes a few people, but more and more are grabbing on to, hey, this really does have a bearing on the direction of Georgia, and so we're going to talk about that, and then get to know some of the candidates.
Excellent. You know, I had an email last night from an old Georgia resident, and he told me, look, I mean, there are a lot of people in Georgia are just voting R&D. You know, they're just going down the ticket, and they don't realize what's going on. And he's like, show me where some of this reporting is. And I said, well, we got 5 years of reporting on the Georgia Record and a few years of Georgia shows, and it's all there, brother. I can't go through it all for you. But anyway, we need to continue to wake people up. So tell people about georgiarecord.com and the Georgia Show, and sign up for our no ad subscriptions. It's a big deal. It really helps us with revenue. You get access to all of our sites with no advertisements. People love it. You know, people driving and they say, I no ads pop up, and I can stay on my maps and all that. So it's all good. So support us there. Free media is kryptonite to the blob. So in the matrix of globalism, and we're it. So Bill, let's run a quick ad. Go ahead.
We will, but before you move off that topic, I want to make a comment too. 2 weeks running now, we have uncovered things that are happening right now that relate to stories that in some cases we did, in some cases go back far enough that you did the year before. Mm-hmm. And I think that's no surprise if you understand that these are continuing issues. So I just want to underscore that. And that's why we recommend folks make sure they know how to get to georgiarecord.com, and to be able to look up what we're covering, because we've talked about it now for a couple of years in some cases. Go ahead.
And we got the crew in the chat. You're cleared hot in the chat. Appreciate all the guys going back and forth. And some of these I see are with us on the skiff Monday through Friday, 10 to 12 too. So appreciate the same people popping in today. And let's run a quick ad for our sponsor, who has been on our team for a long time, and is a guy we trust, David Cross. If you have an issue in your financial life, call David. We trust him, and somebody you can count on for good advice.
This is a special report. Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
Okay, let's get to our first guest. We got a lot going on today.
All right, sounds good. So let's welcome in Lisa Pierce. Lisa, thank you so much for making time this afternoon.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So I understand that you had a little rainstorm earlier today, and a lot of people have now learned that you own and run a farm in addition to all the other stuff that you're involved with. How did things fare this afternoon? Were they okay?
Yeah, we had a lot of rain come down very quickly, but we had some trees go down on our fence. So before I got on here with you, I had to go with my husband back in the back field and get on the tractor and help cut up some big old trees and get them off the fence and mend the fence. So that's kind of how I spent my morning.
So as we go through the next little bit, one of the things that I'd like people to pick up is your, I guess, view on the world, because it is kind of unique. You see things and have things in your life that not many people do. You know, lovely little creatures on the farm. You posted on Twitter a couple of weeks ago. You had new little baby goats that had just been born, and it's so refreshing to see folks talk about something that's innocent and kind and, for lack of a better term, pure. I guess goats are pure. And it's just neat. So I want to make sure people pick up on that. We'll talk about that as we go through. So let me start with a theme that we're going to run through this show, and I wanted to put this up just so we get you started. And that is, there's this sense that I'm getting from people I'm talking to all across the state right now that they want and need to get Georgia back into the hands of the people. And that's not just with regard to political parties, but it means a sense of proper kindness across the state. It speaks to things like our legislators doing the right things, maybe not the things that their lobbyists tell them to do. And so there's that theme, I think, is going to play through today's show. So with that, I wanted to acknowledge that just what was it, last week? Seems like a lot of time passed, but last week you won the first vice chair voting at the GRA convention. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah, it was really exciting. It was my first time attending a GRA convention, and I didn't really know what to expect. I have been a part of the GRA. This is my second year, but I've never been to a meeting. I don't know why our north or southwest, I don't know how they put it. We've never had a meeting, but so I wasn't exactly sure what to anticipate. But it was so well run. Alex Johnson did a phenomenal job running this convention. And I went away with it knowing that, just honest people doing the right thing. And it got a little rowdy there, and he was able to get control of it. But it was a great experience for me.
One of the things that, and you just said it, but I want to expand on it just a little bit. Alex Johnson is the chairman of the GRA, and Nathaniel Darnell is the president of the GRA. And one of the things that I noted was they allowed the delegates, folks that are members, when they go to these conventions, can act as a delegate to actually make and vote their wishes in terms of the various candidates. But one of the things I noted that was I would say it's in pretty stark contrast to some of the district conventions, was they left key decisions in the hands of the delegates. One was that there were some absentee ballots that were sent in, and yet if you think about what President Trump has stated as his wishes going forward, we get away from all these extra mechanisms of voting, and we get back to hand-marked paper ballots, single-day voting, hand counted in the precinct, and so forth. And Alex and Nathaniel, but Alex specifically, to his credit, let the delegation decide whether to even accept absentee ballots. And in fact, they voted to not accept them. So I found that quite different. We've seen in the past few weeks during some of the district conventions, decisions that were made, in fact, even in some cases prior to the district conventions, and the conventioners, the delegates were told, oh, I'm sorry, that can't be changed. That's part of the call, so it now can't be changed. Even though a vast majority in some cases of people in the room wanted things done differently, they could not change it. That struck a lot of people as not in keeping with a republic, first of all, or a Republican tradition. So to your point, I think they did a pretty good job. There was some controversy afterwards that somehow rules had been changed to favor certain candidates. Did you pick that up? I didn't see anything that was done other than the way that their rules are actually written and so forth.
I mean, I heard what the commentator was saying, and it was completely not true, because the rules were that if we have our first vote, and whoever is on the bottom, and we decide to do another vote, they get dropped off the ballot, and then you move up to whoever's left on who's left on that race. So they didn't break any rules. I don't understand why there was such a controversy over it. But it was very disappointing to see that move forward, and actually a candidate saying and agreeing that they cheated, and and that wasn't the truth.
Yeah, that's true.
at all.
We saw a blog put out the day after some of that discussion got had, and Alex and Nathaniel clarified this is all in the rules. There's nothing that was done that was contrary to the actual rules. What they did do is allow, again, the delegates themselves to make motions to go to another round of voting and do that process that you just described, where if there's not what they call a supermajority, 2/3 of the vote going to a single candidate, that someone from the delegation can move to go to another round and the lowest person drops out. So nothing different there. And so it was a little disconcerting to see that, but it's kind of not unlike a lot of things in this race. It seems like no matter what you say, if you say green, then somebody will say, why didn't you say blue? And if you said red, somebody says, why didn't you say yellow? You're somehow against yellow, and yellow is what everybody likes. It just seems like people are looking for targets to shoot at that may or may not be warranted, certainly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I find a lot of this, like, I feel like I've warped back to high school, and it's like the cool kids and the not cool kids, and it's a lot to me it's ridiculous. And I just feel like this is not a popularity contest. I kind of feel like it is a popularity contest. We need to start talking about the issues, what's important to the people. And those are the things I feel like that the delegates are wanting to hear about, not the popularity or, hey, I've been to this party or what. I don't care about any part of that. I care about what the people want. And that's what we need to be talking about.
Yep. I've been in a couple venues in the last couple of weeks where folks have tried to rely on, I've been doing this for 30 years, so I should be the one you pick. And yet that flies in the face of what we've experienced, certainly with Trump. Trump is not a politician. He often breaks, quote unquote, the rules of some of these politicians live by. And yet he's accomplished more in his first term and is now accomplishing more than anybody would have believed in the first 100 days of his second term. So I often question, what is it that makes people think, since I've been doing it 30 years, I should just keep doing it. I mean, 30 years has not worked very well in a lot of cases.
Yeah, not at all.
I've heard you speak about, looking at things with a fresh set of eyes, as it were, and not being caught up in the sort of the politics of it. Do you think you can, as you get involved in this, let's say you get elected, are you able, do you think, to withstand whatever it is that causes people to think differently once they get into office?
Well, I'm not going to be the one that I don't need the money. I don't need the prestige. I don't want the title. It doesn't mean anything to me. What means a lot to me is that we do the work of the people. And I know I keep saying that, but we have not done that. And, just at the GRA convention, if you remember, my opponent got up there and said, well, me come from county that only has 27,000 people. So I'm really not valid enough. I don't have enough experience to be able to move in if I have to move into the chairman's seat. And that elitist attitude that I've been here for 30 years is the most ridiculous argument that I've heard. And I'll give you a point. Both of us she's ex-chair, I'm still current chair. And our most important job is grow our membership, but give the results at the ballot box. All right. That's to me the most important. That's where it hits the road. What have you been doing? And if you compare my results from 2020 to 2024, we actually had a 3% increase in Republican votes in our county and a 2.55 decrease of the Democrat votes in our county. That's results, as opposed to her, who was one of the 20 counties that actually turned more blue. And yesterday at the Fulton County event, she got up there and said, well, you know, I've been in office for 4 years, but it was already turning blue. Well, if we take a look at her 4 surrounding counties of DeKalb, Fulton, Clayton, and Gwinnett, Fulton County people, they all turned more red, but Cobb County turned more blue. That's a failed leadership. And we need to start having and putting people in positions, not because they've been around for 30 years, but because they've been put in a position and shown the result of that position. So I'm here to ask for the vote for that because I have proven leadership.
That's right. You know, we talked about you owning a farm now and working on that, but you also have a significant business background, as I recall. Is that true?
I do. For 27 years, I worked in the medical device and pharmaceutical field. I traveled all over the state, and I've worked in every big city, every small city across the state. So I do know the people and the residents here in Georgia.
Yeah, and that's important because there are differences certainly between Metro Atlanta and outlying counties and in rural counties and so forth. But once you understand those perspectives, you can draw on those as you get into other, I'll call them similar counties around the state. Yeah.
Of course.
So Todd, did you have a question?
No, I was picking up on her comments about elitism. I mean, that's like an excuse to, like, I'm going to be corrupt, and so therefore I'm going to use this elitist excuse, and you can't really say anything about it. It's like calling somebody racist. You know, it's exactly the same technique in my view, and it's horrible. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Yep. I recall that when Biden was running against Trump, a lot of people were pointing out, wait a minute, this guy's talking about I'm going to solve this and I'm going to solve that, and yet he's already been involved as a senator for how many years? 36, 40 years? I've forgotten now. I mean, it's bizarre. And it's like, okay, so you could have solved this for the last 40 years. You didn't. Now you're going to. Now it's on the agenda. Oh, okay. And we're already seeing cases where when you delve into, folks' background, in many cases you find, well, they had a chance to do something and didn't. Whereas there's going to be a story come out later today regarding Cobb County and regarding some of the results from 2020 that I think will be quite important for folks to understand. And immediately they should be thinking to themselves, why didn't we know about this? And why weren't we asking questions about this beginning 4 years ago, yelling and screaming down the streets? So we'll see. I know that you've got a number of different resources ready to help people learn more about you. Let's talk about a couple of those if we can. So here is the Lisa for Georgia, Lisa #4GA.com, and that's your website. Yes, tell us about this.
Yeah, it is my website where people can go and learn a little bit more about me. And you can scroll through, see some of the interviews that I have there. And if you feel led, please donate, because running all over the state is not cheap. And the convention itself, I mean, they want $500 just for us to put a table out, along with the flyers and stickers and everything else. So any help you can provide, I would really appreciate.
That's great. The other thing you'll find both on this and on your Twitter are kind of a way of getting to know kind of who you are as a person. I just picked off a couple of photos of the farm and so forth. You've got, as you said, some videos up on the website as well, so that people can learn more. And you've got a number of videos that you've placed up on Twitter. And there's the Twitter site. You have quite a number of followers, by the way. Holy smokes.
One or two. Yeah.
One or two plus about another 6,000. So well done. And one thing I wanted to point out is you often have one of your pets with you. I'll go back here for just a minute. I just want to point out it's very, very cute. Down there on the right-hand side of the podium is one of your special friends, and that is Mud E. Is that correct?
Muddy.
Muddy.
It's Muddy. She is my service dog. So yeah, she travels with me everywhere. So wherever I go, she goes. She is my companion. So she goes everywhere.
So folks can get more about you here. I know that there's also a number of interviews. We've done a couple that we have posted. I know you've been on and spoken with BKP and Antonio from War Room, and I think others too. Yes, so folks can view those on various media. What's your schedule for the next 3 weeks? We're down to 3 weeks from the convention now. So, what's your schedule looking like over that time?
Super busy. So I know this coming week, Monday I'm going to be in Vidalia. Tuesday I'll be in Columbus at lunchtime and at dinner. I'll be in Paulding County on Thursday, and then Saturday we'll be down in Waycross. And I only can think 1 week at a time because it's overwhelming of how much traveling that we're doing. So yeah. It's pretty busy.
Well, that's great. We'll as more of the schedule is known, we'll try to make sure we keep up on it on the Georgia Record. Thank you. Any last things you'd like to share with folks?
No, I just really appreciate the time for you allowing me to come on and kind of give a little bit of information about myself. Please come to lisaforgeorgia.com, learn a little bit more about me, and I would appreciate your vote in June.
That's great. Thank you so much for being with us. We will look forward to updates as we go. Todd, did you have something?
No, that's it. I just said thank you.
Okay. All right. Lisa, thank you so much for being with us. We'll talk with you soon.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
That's great. What an interesting set of skills and background. It's refreshing, I think, is the
It is very refreshing. You know, it's I'm just sitting here. It always happens during the show. We get major crises that I have to deal with. It's quite interesting. So let's take a break quickly with an ad from our new sponsor, Alp, which is if you're using the Zen pouches, switch to the non-woke company, a better experience, more in the can, moister and more flavorful. Alp, pouch.com/CDM.
All right.
You have that, Bill?
So we are in the factory in Kentucky. This is Alp World HQ, and we are at the end of the packing line. So I'm going to show you how it works. We have the card, throw it in there. There's a packing slip, and then you have the Alp. And 4, but that seems honestly like a lot. 3 now, but it's good. You just pack a punch that, you know, for a normal nicotine brand, it'd be like 8. You know, we think 3 is fine. Next one. Again, 4. I'll throw 3 in just to keep it fair. Okay? There you go. So you can see you can get fast at this. And really, it's just a matter of repetition. This is kind of the assembly line that, you know, Henry Ford devised so long ago.
Tucker's stealing all the Alp.
You can't make this stuff up. And by the way,
well, you haven't gone to where you're like got it in the cheek during the show yet, Bill.
No, I doubt I'll get there. I'm afraid I would choke or, you know, I'd bobble it or something. So we're not going to do that. But
we got to get the 9 in there for that one, man. We got to get the triple dose.
I will tell you, I tried it and I do enjoy it. It gives a little pick me up sometimes. But you know, I was worried about, oh gosh, you keep saying, oh gosh, this is somehow addictive. I don't find it addictive. I'll go a day and not even realize I didn't use one, and it's no big deal. So
outpouch.com/CDM. Yeah. We got back to you for our next guest.
Very good. We have our next guest is Norine Cantor, who is running for second vice chair. Norine, thank you for making time this afternoon.
Oh, thank you for having me, you guys. Appreciate it.
Well, it has been an interesting process through the first few weeks of your candidacy and the races all really across the board. How do you feel it's going so far?
Well, I feel it's going pretty good. There was a total divide. It's establishment versus grassroots. So we'll see. We are trying our best to change the Georgia GOP.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if you saw the first sort of theme that we put up on the show today, but it's I feel like we're at a stage where the process now is about getting Georgia back into the hands of the people. Because when you look at legislature, you look at the current GOP, you look at other things, it does not feel like that the people come first in these folks' minds. And yet when I talk to many of the true grassroots candidates, yourself included, I get a different feeling. So I hope that makes sense.
It does. It's absolutely true. We, the people, haven't got a say so in Georgia, in any part of Georgia, in the legislature, in the Senate, in the GOP, nothing. And we need to rectify that. We need to get America First grassroots in, or now we have to call them mega roots, because the grassroots have been taken by the establishment to not be such a good thing. So we're going to go mega roots from now on.
Some have, yeah, some have. So one of the things people are learning about you, if they haven't heard you before, is you talk straight. You get down to brass tacks with what you see going on, don't you?
I am. I don't hide anything. Pure transparency. I say what's on my mind. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but people know where I stand.
Yeah. So you did very well at the GRA Endorsement Convention last week. You earned an endorsement, meaning you reached the plateau of what's called a supermajority. 2/3 of the delegates able to vote voted for you. Ultimately, it took a couple of rounds, or 3 rounds, if I recall correctly, as people, there were quite a number of folks running for this particular slot. But isn't it interesting that as the process went on, they gravitated to you?
Absolutely.
How'd you feel? I know there were a lot of people in the room and there was a lot of diverse opinions, but how'd you feel as that process went on?
I think it was good. The delegates spoke, and we had 3 rounds, which was fine. But the delegates spoke and they chose me, and I was honored to be endorsed by the GRA.
They're good folks. I know that they got some harsh feedback. We talked generally about it a few minutes ago, but they got some pretty harsh feedback from one of the radio hosts who has a show apparently, and it turned out later that he had to apologize for some of the words that he said about them. I guess deciding that it was incorrect to go down that path. And in fact, Alex Johnson, who runs the GRA, published a blog to dispute another email that went out that challenged what they had done. But in fact, everything was done according to the rules, and your race was the same way. It's the way their rules work. And in fact, the people spoke for you when they had the chance. As you look forward, a lot of people call for unity, and unity to me that's great if you're unifying around the right things. But when they just say, "Oh, you got to unify," that's kind of like people when Trump was running originally saying, "Oh, he's just a troublemaker. He's just causing havoc and chaos. We need to unify around a consistent Republican candidate." And yet over time, people decided, I want to unify, but I want to unify on what I believe. And that feels like kind of the stage we're at here. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. We've got to, we should get behind a total grassroots, mega roots candidate, but we don't. We support just ours, and that's got to change, because ours are turning into rhinos, and we've got enough of those down at the Capitol. So if we can all get behind the mega roots candidates, once we put some out, that would be wonderful. But sometimes we just go to the polls and hold our nose and vote for the lesser of 2 evils. That has got to stop.
Yep. A number of people have posted a sentence from the past that says, the only thing necessary for evil to have its way in the world is for good people to do nothing. And that does feel like the case in past years, but I kind of feel like that may be changing. Were you able to pick that up as you spoke to people over the last few weeks? Are people willing to get engaged in a way that they might not have before?
I think so. There's a lot of support, which I was really surprised. There's a lot of support for me and the other candidates, because they want to see change. They're tired of people just being corrupt in Georgia. And believe me, there's a lot of corruption in Georgia, and we need to get out of the Georgia GOP. We need a new person in there, and we need to do an audit. We need to get back to the we the people, because we the people do not have a say-so in the Georgia GOP, not one bit. And that has got to change.
Yeah. Folks like Hank Sullivan and others have pointed out there's been so many things been done that seem contrary to actually the rules, if you will, of the Georgia GOP. And in some cases, the laws of Georgia, holding back evidence from the state election board, and it being done by the general counsel of the Secretary of State. It just seems unbelievable to many. And do you think that we can get to the point where the GOP actually has presence and impact on the legislators' thinking and decisions as we go forward?
I think we can, if we get the right people down there and put a good leader in, like David Cross. I'm just going to go there. Then we could probably build a great team, because everybody will have an assigned job and duty, which you don't have now. You're at the will of the chair, and the will of the chair has been, you do what I tell you to do and you hush. Well, I'm not going to do that. But with David, I'm sure we'll all get an assignment and we'll all be in charge of everything. So we should all pull together and make a great team and give it back to we the people.
Yeah. Now you have some places people can go to learn more about you, your campaign, and so forth. Let me pull one of those up.
Oh, absolutely.
This is your website, yes, Norine for Georgia.
Yep.
And so, what will they find here, just in general, and then what help do you need over the coming weeks?
Well, they will find all about me and about what I've done. I ran for House District 30 last year against our representative, who is a rhino. His score was 34%. But I didn't win, but people understand now what a voting score is. So I hope a lot more people will pay attention to that. I'm just me. You see, what you see is what you get. I don't hide anything. I am very strong Roots America First mega root candidate. And I want to get more mega roots in and build a Freedom Caucus and get Georgia back to what it's supposed to be.
Yep.
A bright red state.
As you said, as you just alluded to, you're building quite the following across Georgia. Here, one of the notable influencers across Georgia, What Matters in Georgia, posted, about the GOP second vice chair race and so forth, and how well you did during the endorsement elections again. So, once again, congratulations on that. What's in store for this coming week? Do you have specific appearances you want to share with folks?
Yeah, I'll be going to Chickamauga Tuesday, Thursday, Paulding County, and then we go to Rome, and then Macon, and then Tucker. And then Cobb. There's just all kinds of things that pop up. I guess everybody's waiting until the last couple of weeks to get us to come, but we'll do it if we can. We can't make everything. Like, I can't make it to Waycross. That's just, and I work, so I can't get off. So hopefully everybody that goes down there will understand what we're all about. Okay.
Well, that's great. And we will be excited to hear progress in the coming days. We might even cross paths with you at some of these events. So we'll look forward to that.
Absolutely.
All right.
Look forward to seeing y'all.
Any last things before we break?
Well, I am Norine Cantor. I am running for Georgia's second vice chair. I'm America First mega roots Trump supporting candidate with integrity. God bless Georgia.
Well said. All right. We will talk with you soon. Thanks so much for being here.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Another great candidate. So,
yeah. Fantastic interview. Thanks, Bill.
All right. So do we want to take one more quick break, or should we?
Yeah, let's. The Wellness Company is one of our main sponsors. Please check out their website. You can go to twc.health/CDM. Promo code CDM, you get 10% off. I think we have an ad there. Can you run a Dr. Victory ad or one of those from the Wellness Company? Thank you.
Yep.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are two medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
You know, Bill, little did we know, we almost had a Surgeon General, CDM friend of the show, in that slot, but she got pulled at the last minute. But
that's okay. I'm taking a mail order surgeon course, so maybe we'll have a second chance. All right. Are we ready for our next guest?
Yes, let's bring on BKP.
We got it. Mr. Pritchard, good afternoon, and thank you for making time, my friend.
Always. You guys, always. How are you this afternoon?
We are rocking and rolling. We just got a chance to speak with Lisa Pierce and Norine Cantor, both wonderful candidates running for the GOP. And we were excited to be able to have you on because I've heard you speak of this, and it's becoming a very clear feeling for many that this is a vital time for Georgia.
Absolutely.
We've got to find a way to get the power in the state back in the hands of the people, and it just feels like it's just not there at the moment. What say you?
Well, I want to briefly say, yes, it's just like with Trump in 2024. This is the election of our lifetime. This is it. We all talked about it on this program. People talked about it around the country. The same stands. It's not cliche. The same stands for this Georgia Republican Party state officers convention here, the election on June 6th. The same thing stands here on whether we're going to have the ability to turn the leadership of the Republican Party back around to where it's respected by the people that asked to use the R in front of their name as lawmakers in Atlanta. It's that simple. I mean, that is it to a T. This is what turns that ball. And I explained that the other day, and I'm going to go in more depth this week on the show of how that turns. There's really quick things. Lisa Pierce, I just met Lisa when she applied to be a candidate. Brilliant lady, hard worker, determination, perseverance. Her and Kylie Kramer were supposed to just say, okay. When they got a message back saying, you didn't dot the I, you didn't cross the T, they were supposed to say, okay. And these ladies did not say, okay. So I haven't been on the show with you, but I think we'll all agree. The perseverance there. Norine Cantor, she called me because I did run a statewide race, and she called me when she launched her campaign. Do you have any pointers for me? And I actually said, no, Norine, be Norine. And she is now elevated to the front runner for second vice chair.
That's
she
pretty
really
good advice, BKP, because she was pretty hardcore there, man. She was just spot on.
No, I when she called me up because I ran a statewide race. She said, okay, I'm going to run a statewide race. I said, be Norine.
Yeah.
I know you for how many years now? Her and her husband are just good people, patriots. Be Norine, and she has. But let me just say this. Also, unity. People will attack me for saying I don't want to unify, but I'm tired of the word unity, especially in Georgia, because unity in Georgia, to that side, the translation is submission.
Yes.
Okay. Unity is submission. Okay. So I'm tired of it. Second, I'm like Norine. I mean, they have diluted the meaning of grassroots. Okay. I'm sad to report that is basically gone. You can't just say grassroots in Georgia because Bill, myself, others, we are the grassroots that get out and, are connected to the people And this is the establishment, whether they want to accept they are or not. They're the ones trying to demagify Georgia. And I'm tired of hearing candidates come up and say, I'm your conservative voice in Atlanta. So, but we do need to turn it around, and we can. And I put a game plan together for that. We've got to get the delegates there. We got to get the delegates there.
Right. So one of the real concerns that came up early in all of this was communication from the candidates to the delegates. And you and I and Todd have all spoken about this crazy 9-page NDA. That now that people are seeing it, they're beginning to realize, wait a minute, who in the heck needs a 9-page NDA? I've been involved in corporate mergers that were 9 figures that didn't have a 9-page NDA. It still had teeth, but this is crazy. And so we now have, I guess is it 5 candidates that really don't have access to the delegate list because they don't wish to and don't believe it's warranted to sign this thing. So how can they best communicate, do you think? Is there if you come up with a way for that to happen?
Well, what you're talking about, and it's just shocking that we talk about this in Georgia, of all places, in 2020, where the election was stolen from Donald J. Trump. The other day, and I'm going to answer your question. The other day in Gettr, President Trump stood in front of 10,000 men and women in uniform, and he said, "I won 3 elections." And that's what he said. I've got to say,
that's right.
But then, if you go to any of these events, and you hear Josh McCoon asked about the 2020 election, it takes him 2 minutes not to answer it. So here we are in Georgia, and what you're asking is, we're experiencing election interference. We're experiencing in this election voter suppression, voter intimidation, rigging of an election, and trying to keep candidates off the ballot, which, as Yogi Berra said, is deja vu all over again. I think they were trying to keep Trump off ballots. I mean, you wrap all this up and then you tell somebody it is a Georgia GOP election, that this is truly happening with fact. How to communicate? Lori McLean, she can't sign the NDA. I mean, she has said it out loud. It prohibits her from talking about financial things in the Georgia GOP. She's the treasurer.
Mm-hmm.
The NDA, if you read it, has things to be determined, and who gets to do the determination. There's too many gray areas in that. So David and others, they can't do that, and we know what venue is. And then Josh, fellas, I'm not good at going really soft on things. Josh just stood and lied last week. Okay, he lied. I mean, all of us have had times where we've dealt with contract law. I used to deal with contract law and construction all the time, and we would mark through, initial what we felt, and send it back. And if we agreed on it, you can move forward. Josh said, I would have a bar complaint on me if I did that. All David did was say, I'm going to alter these areas, and we'll agree on that.
Yeah.
The question is, how do they communicate? What we need is we need every delegate in every county that is going to support David. And I don't want to call it a slate. They don't call it a slate, but obviously it's the McCoon cover-up team. I call them the McCoon cover-up team. They're set up to move forward, to cover up anything and everything behind the curtain at the Georgia GOP. Folks, Todd, Bill, have you ever seen anything? Forget Josh, forget the names. Have you ever seen anything in your life that it's like there's something they don't want you to see? Just
the Wizard of Oz.
Right. What don't you want us to see?
Yeah.
So what we need is a delegate or two in every county that's going to support David, Lisa Pierce, Norine. You're the ones that know who the delegates are in your county, and we need you to get the list of your delegates in your county, or for you to campaign the delegates in your county. Because here's what's tough. Okay, they're whipping votes. They're whipping votes. They're going to try to intimidate. Now,
and the other side doesn't even know who to whip, right?
Exactly. But let me tell you something that's very, I mean, it's just unthinkable what they're doing. And this one's going to probably, I hope this one lands me in a dually email. I mean, really between her and somebody else, I'll leave a couple other names out, but I'm grabbing this free advertising like it's going out of style, man. I'm loving every minute of it. But anyhow, here's what they're doing. Okay. They're calling, they're narrowed down. They're calling their county, they're calling their district chairs. You've heard Josh say 11 out of 14. So they're calling their district chairs, and Josh always has plausible deniability, always. All right. So they're calling the district chairs. The district chairs are calling the county chairs, and they're saying something like this to the county chair. Look, the chairman really looks forward to working with your county in the next administration and having your county be a part of so many things that we have going forward. And we're excited about you being part of it. What we really need you to do is to take your delegate list and hopefully for you to just get your county to vote as a block. And when you do that and ensure that we win, we together, you're going to be a big part of what's coming up. I mean, that's exactly what they're doing. They're manipulating that. I know of a county chair right now that got that phone call. It is very angry because there's someone in his county campaigning for Lisa Pierce and campaigning for David Cross and so forth. And they're very angry that that individual will not get out of the way. And this is several of them. So, I mean, the standing vote is to, all right, here's the big deal on this one. It's to cleanse, the final cleansing to get people out of the way to no longer participate.
So describe what a standing vote is for folks that haven't seen this before, please.
Well, what they're going to do, they did this with David Schaefer. I've participated with several state conventions. Okay. They did this with David Schaefer the last time. The last election, Josh McCoon was elected at, we used the clickers and we have our discussion on that. But what they want to do with a standing vote is you stand, all right, they'll give the name, you stand for who you want to vote for. Now, the reason they do that is because of an intimidation factor. People don't want to be seen standing up for certain candidates and then go back home and get attacked at their county parties.
Well, when they, just to clarify, when they stand, they might be standing because of their choice, but the people right next to them from their county may disagree with them and they're not. And so they're going theoretically going against the other people right next to them immediately. And they don't have to wait to go home to get, shunned, if you will. They could be worried about their friends right next door to them.
Well,
right?
what happens is you have to stand for a small period of time for the count. And you stand there for a small period of time. Now, what does happen, and this is where they'll argue with me, is there'll be people across the auditorium taking pictures. They'll take pictures immediately. This is what they do. They take pictures. And then your county chairs will turn around and look at who is standing for the opposition to the current chairman, Josh McCoon. When you get back to the county, they know those are the ones they have to push out. That is the final cleansing for them. This is the final cleansing of who needs to go. Because if you vote, let's say you vote for David Cross and your county chair, you get back, you're not going to be a precinct captain. You're not going to be on their election integrity team. You're not going to be on certain things. They're going to start knowing these are the ones we have to start pushing out.
Well, that happened to me, BKP, in Miami-Dade, because I was on the Republican Executive Committee, and they don't know you when you come in because you're kind of a blank slate. But once they realize who you are, they don't let you back in the game, right? I mean, so no. They kicked me out in December. So, I mean, that's you're exactly right. That's how the game is played.
They also seem to meld the rules to their own wishes. We talked about the NDA a couple of minutes ago. One thing that's, I believe it's being worked on even as we sit here this afternoon, is by one of our great researchers across the state, And the question that's being asked is, that NDA has 2 signature lines to it. One signature line by the candidate and one signature line from the Georgia GOP, in this case, Inc. Who would sign that second line if Josh is asking for the candidate list? He can't sign both those lines, can he? Not as a candidate and as the chairman. So there's questions like that floating around too. How is this being orchestrated where you have these strange documents, these strange decisions that seem to be made very unilaterally? We heard about candidate certifications that were turned in, I believe, just in the last 30 or 60 days. We haven't had an executive committee meeting in how many months? 9? How is that possible? The executive committee is the one to decide on certifications, is my understanding. Perhaps I'm wrong. We'd love to have Josh or somebody come on and discuss it with us. But some of these things seem to be contrary to maybe the rules of the GOP, maybe even some of the laws of Georgia. We don't know.
Well, let me give you this. I'm listening to Norine turning the power back around. You're talking about turning the power back around. I forget the exact year, but SB 221, when they created the leadership PACs, and you got to think of it like this, okay? When they created the leadership PACs, all right, that stopped any lawmakers in Georgia. Now, not U.S. Congress, not U.S. Congress or a U.S. Senate. Okay, that's federal. But all of your state representatives, all your state senators, and all of your constitutional officers no longer had to go to the party for anything. Okay, because what happened before 221? What happened before 221? If you're a state representative and you needed a little money, people donated through the party. You'd have big donors through the party. The party would be packed with some money, and you're a state rep and you need help in your district. You then go to the party, and then the party could say to you, okay, we're going to help you. We're going to put 50,000 into your race. But let me tell you something. We don't want you going to Atlanta and voting like a Democrat. You understand that communication pulled the representative, pulled the senators, pulled the back into working with the party. When 221 passed, okay, you take a House member right now and he needs $50,000. You think he calls the Georgia GOP? No, he calls John Burns. They call the Senate leadership PAC. They call the governor. They don't call the Georgia GOP because that power shift is gone. All right. The only thing they need the Georgia GOP for right now is ballot access. So what we have to do is we are in the position right now in 2026 with all the constitutional officers to say to the Georgia candidate for lieutenant governor, the candidate for Georgia in the primary, we're not going to put you on the ballot if you don't appeal SB 221. If you don't get rid of that, we're not going to, the grassroots, we're not going to put you on the ballot, because that also shuts down any opportunity of getting grassroots candidates. And they've done it on purpose. They don't need the Georgia GOP. The Georgia GOP cannot fund grassroots candidates. Georgia GOP goes around with, we can't get involved in the primaries. We can't get involved in the primaries. It's all set up to maintain the pyramid of power. The pyramid of power starts at the governor, and it's all set up for that. So the Georgia GOP has been wiped out, basically wiped out.
Well, maybe the Georgia GOP Inc. could put them on the ballot. Speaking.
Well, there you go. I forgot my ink, Todd. I usually don't forget my ink. All right. People say that's one of their favorite things, is I always end it with the ink. But let me tell you this really quickly, because I know we're running out of time. But the other lie that Josh, and this is a lie that Josh McCoon tells, is that we would lose the donors. Okay. No. Here, let me translate. The only donors we have in Georgia are the controllers. All right. So let me explain. He says, well, if David Cross gets elected, we won't have donors. I mean, I have these relationships and I'll bring in the donors. No, donors at the current state equal the controllers of what is the party. Okay, if Cross gets elected and we could turn the ball this way, we can, with truth, transparency, and looking at everything, we could get donors. Now listen to the lie: $3 million. Okay. Now now you think about this. 23 million was raised, right? How much of that came in from the RNC? We know. So the Georgia GOP Inc., Josh wants to go around and say, well, we raised $3 million. $3 million in $1 trillion worth of politics, and all you came out with $3 million? When I was elected first vice chair of the Georgia Republican Party, I tried to get Josh to do a national campaign to help Georgia defend our electors. I'll look you in the eye and tell you I could have put in an elector defense fund, I could have put $6 million in just like that. He wouldn't do it. I'm telling you right now, that $3 million, folks, we should have raised in the Georgia Republican Party, not counting the RNC, we should have raised in this kind of cycle $20 million. Easy.
Yep.
So every time he says, remember the code words, folks out there, every time he says, well, we'll lose the donors. No, he's worried about losing the controllers of the party.
That makes sense. So,
Bill, I always make sense. I just would clear that up.
and one of the most humble in the business too, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the things that's happened, and it's happened to us, it's happened to you. There's these when the establishment, whatever you want to call them, the elites, when they want to fight, they fight very dirty. They start making up stories to portray people in certain characteristics that are obviously untrue, and yet they get some notoriety. But that seems, I think, to be waning. In other words, their ability to say these outlandish lies seems to be falling away. Are you feeling that? People that would have looked up to somebody a while ago are now saying, that person acts so crazy. I don't think I can trust anything they say anymore. Are you hearing that?
On the direct attacks of me, because also, I follow you on X, and I see the attacks, and I see when you're fortunate enough to make one of the bylines, but I see the attacks. I'll just stay with myself. Every single time I get attacked, they just throw ugly, nasty stuff out like Democrats. They never attack my substance of what I'm doing. They can't, they don't attack the substance of the information. So, on a daily basis, I'm homophobic, I'm a bigot, I'm anti-Semitic. What else am I? I'm a racist. I mean, I'm all the above. That's what they do. They go on the signal chats. I'm the great forger, by the way, and so on. And they go after me, but they don't go after my content. And to answer your question, yes, people are starting to say, wait a minute, something's not right here. I say it over and over. Sally Grubbs is trying to pray herself into office.
I got a big laugh when they started calling you racist, because I thought back to, I think it's around the time that Trump got booked down in Fulton County Jail, and you were the one to go down and support Harrison Floyd as he was, I think when he was being let out and so forth. And then you appeared with some folks from South Fulton, visited their businesses and to hear what their positions were. And it was astounding. I remember one gentleman saying, well, I'll vote for Trump. And it's like, well, you're going to vote for the Republicans. No, they didn't help me. Trump's trying to help me. But it was you that went down and did that. And you're the one who visited them. I didn't see anybody else visiting these folks to get their feelings.
I called Josh McCoon and asked him, that troubles me personally, because I do have the X that Candace Taylor and Debbie Dooley took down. They deleted, but I have the copy where they attacked my family. I went down when Harrison Floyd was incarcerated to meet with him as first vice chair of the Georgia Republican Party. And I asked the chair, you want to go? And I got reminded, as always, you can't speak for the Republican Party. Well, I went anyway. I was asked by someone to go into South Fulton and talk to business leaders. So I went down there with a guy and I just walked in the door of these businesses, and they were shocked at first that I was there, but had a great afternoon. And then yesterday, because of my comments concerning a certain radio host in Atlanta, and I'll leave that alone on this show. I'll handle it on mine and say what I want to say. But because of some comments I made, they oh my God, they attacked me as a racist, when really the person that I made the comments about had to apologize to the GRA because they called them cheaters and they didn't cheat. And then you end all yesterday, my granddaughter had a birthday. So I sat outside with my son-in-law for about an hour, and we just had the most in-depth conversation, an amazing conversation about AI. And he's a brilliant young man, and he's married to my daughter, has 3 kids. Oh, by the way, he happens to be black. So, you know, and oh, he's racist. Okay.
Sheesh.
Well, you know, BKP,
I mean, it's the way it is. I mean,
you may be racist, but I'm a witch, so I got you.
That's right. Well, we'll cover that on the next show. That's going to be. That needs to come
we got to do that show.
Let me give folks some information. If they don't know where to see you every day, they should know. And here's where it is. The voiceofruralamerica.com. You're on Rumble. You're on Twitter. You're all over the place. Tell us where they can find you best.
Well, Diane, I never want to wrap up without it. There's just the 2 of us. And one day, Diane and I were talking, and we said, you know, it's not the size of the network, but it's the truth of the network. I work on the content 7 days a week. Don't take a day off. And Diane produces an amazing show. It's just the 2 of us every morning at 8 a.m. We do 2 hours of national news. You can find us on the website, voiceofruralamerica.com. You can go to Roku and get our app, voiceofruralamerica.com, Apple and get our app, voiceofruralamerica.com, Rumble, voiceofruralamerica.com, YouTube. I don't know where all, Diane. In fact, I found out the other day, Diane's running it on this thing called The Pill. I don't even know what that is. All right. And she's running it. I'm like, okay, whatever you're doing, Diane. I don't know what you're doing. So she sets it up but we appreciate everybody. Folks, if you come on, I take a lot of Bill's research. I'll go through the Georgia Record. And in the morning, it's one of the 35 websites. I always hit the Georgia Record, folks. I go through there. Bill does research articles. I mean, one of the best in the business. I'm the best at what I do, so Bill can't try what I do. But I don't try what Bill does because he's one of the best in the business. I mean, all my John Garst and all of my work there. I get it, crop it out, and give him all the kudos for it because he does a great job there. So 8 to 10 national, 10 to 11. Bill, I don't know what I'm going to do because I keep telling Diane from 10 to 11 we do an hour dedicated to Georgia, and I keep telling Diane I don't know if I'm going to have to do like 2 hours for Georgia.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know
over the
what
next 2 weeks. You bet. As a matter of fact, little birdie tells me that people need to be watching you over the next few days. Is that birdie telling me the truth?
Well, I will tell you this. Every single day something's dropping. And I think you know all too well the refund money that's being looked into it. I know you know that in depth. All of the stuff with the FEC, the comments that the treasurer's made. This is very, very deep, very, very deep. There's some candidates. I call it the McCoon cover-up team, and I think this week, before the week ends, we'll explain some of those candidates and why Josh McCoon put his slate together, period. And we're going to uncover why he's using some of those candidates.
We will be looking forward to hearing that. I bet you're going to have some fascinating things to bring out. Thank you. I know we'll be talking in the coming weeks as we get closer to the convention. And thanks for being here this afternoon, my friend.
Anytime, as I always say, I love being with you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for your work. We'll see you maybe tomorrow.
Okay.
Cool.
Take care.
Take care.
All right. I know you've got another segment that you wanted to air, so I'm going to turn it over to you, my friend.
Yeah, so I sat down with Peter Galuli of the Wellness Company. He's this is one of our best sponsors, but I did it because of an incident that happened with Casey Means being put into the well, it's bigger than that. It's with her brother Callie Means, who allegedly, according to Peter, called the Wellness Company and screamed and threatened to him about some comments he had made and alleged links to Laura Loomer. Well, this was about there's a competitive company thing going on, and the problem is Callie Means is an advisor to RFK, he's a temporary government employee. So this, according to Mr. Galuli, is government interference in private business. So I'll let you decide. We're not really taking a position, but we did want to bring this out, and it's needed to get out in the public. So we need transparency. That's just the bottom line in a lot of areas. So I'm going to run this quick interview. It's about 10 minutes long by Peter Galuli and myself a couple days ago. I think it'll be interesting.
I have a hard stop at 35 after.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, cool.
So there's been a lot of controversy in the MAHA sector inside the U.S. government and out in the private sector, and we have one of the guys at the center of that controversy, Peter Galuli, the CEO of the Wellness Company. Thanks for joining us, Peter. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me back, Todd.
So, what happened? What's going on with RFK's advisor, Callie Means?
It's been a whirlwind of a week, Todd. So last week, I'm sure many of the audience saw that Callie Means, who is serving currently as a special government employee advisor to Secretary Kennedy, also CEO of a company called TrueMed, his sister, Dr. Casey Means, was nominated for Surgeon General. It was reported widely on social media that Dr. Kelly Victory, who I know you've met and is on my chief medical board, was also under consideration for the Surgeon General position. There was a lot of, I think, backlash and some controversy to having, an employee's sister and someone that is, as relatively young as Casey Means, who'd be the first, Surgeon General under 45 ever, and in fact, she's not even 40 yet, serving the government. So there was a lot of back and forth about this. Some larger journalists like Laura Loomer caught up in the story and got into it with Callie Means, who was defending his sister's track record. Fast forward to Saturday morning, I'm walking my dog. I get a frantic call from Dr. Drew Pinsky, who said, "Hey, Callie's on the phone and he really wants to talk to you. He's quite upset." So I said, "Okay, well, give him my number, have him give me a call." I take a call from Callie, and he proceeds to be hysterical for about 15 minutes about how the Wellness Company is, in his words, allegedly orchestrating a smear campaign against him and his sister because presumably Dr. Victory did not get the nomination. Couldn't be further from the truth. And in fact, the people who he mentioned, these influencers like Laura Loomer, I've never met, nobody from the Wellness Company has ever met these people before, never mind spoken to them about the matter. And Mr. Means went on to threaten to bring Secretary Kennedy and Jay Bhattacharya, who's the director of the NIH, to make our lives very difficult. He made numerous threats to sue us into oblivion, again, for what I'm not exactly sure to this point, and he had a very difficult time articulating precisely what it was, other than some sort of background smear campaign. Then he also made a bizarre overture to what I would kind of classify as extortion, to tell me that it might be a good idea if the Wellness Company partnered with TrueMed on payment processing for health and wellness products, which is what TrueMed provides. So, I was frankly, Todd, quite stunned by that whole ordeal. It's not the phone call that I expected to receive on a Saturday morning, certainly. I captured the call. I debated with my team about what action should or should not be taken. And we decided that we had an obligation to file an ethics complaint with Washington for this behavior. Because, frankly, we might expect this thing under the Biden administration is the kind of stuff that Hunter was widely reported doing, but not under the Trump administration. I'm sure if President Trump or Secretary Kennedy knew about this behavior, they would not tolerate it for a moment.
So was there a reaction from the Trump administration to the public, issue that happened?
Not outwardly facing. So I filed complaints with 4 separate agencies: Office of Special Counsel, Office of the Inspector General, Civil Rights, and FTC. They've acknowledged the complaints have been filed, and I also included a full transcript of the conversation. And I told them I would happily and publicly cooperate with any investigation that they feel is necessary. But let's be clear: this man's a special government employee. Todd.
Yeah.
He's working for the government. He's an employee of the federal government. He works for you and I. He has no business commingling his private enterprise with his government position, and he has no business using his government position to threaten someone who he perceives as a competitor into taking specific business actions. And that's really what this is about. I think he said the quiet part out loud and lost his temper, and we really need to push back against this sort of behavior.
Oh, for sure. Keep us updated as to what happens there. But while I've got you, because really I wanted to talk to you about that, but while I've got you, the whole parasite cleanse thing has been a huge, I guess, bump in products and in interest in the web as far as what's happening with healthcare. You guys are re-engineering that, but that seems to be a focus of the wellness company. Tell us about the product that you put out on that.
Yeah, it's been kind of an amazing wave of momentum, Todd, and we, frankly speaking, didn't expect this. So, as we all kind of discovered during COVID, repurposed drugs have, great utility within modern society. We probably don't need all of this new drug innovation that we see on TV and commercials with the people dancing, right? And then the list of 30 side effects, where we have things like ivermectin and bendazole, which have been used safely for over 100 years. Ivermectin's won a Nobel Prize. Bendazole was single-handedly credited with curing pinworm in the U.S. South. These drugs are very safe. They've been shown to be repurposed for many things, such as COVID, which there's been research on, such as cancer, which there's been research on. And we really thought that we could combine the two and really solve a problem that many Americans face and few recognize, which is parasites. Something like 1 in 5, 1 in 6 Americans have some sort of parasite in their system. You might say that, parasites are a problem that's only common to third world countries. No, it's surprisingly common in the US, and it manifests itself in many symptoms like lethargy and brain fog and all these other things that we kind of end up trying to live with on a day-to-day basis, but don't have to. And if you have a dog, if you have a pet, if you wear shoes in the house, you could be tracking in bugs that, can eventually cause you harm over time. And it makes sense, I think, for everybody at, pretty regular intervals to do some sort of cleanse. It has no real negative health effects and only upside.
So you mentioned some of the symptoms, but give us the typical person who may need to look at this. I mean, what kind of things would you be experiencing that may be an indication you may have some of this stuff?
Yeah, parasites can manifest themselves in a variety of ways. It affects appetite. It often causes people to overeat, especially because the body is needs to intake more food to get the same amount of metabolism, because you have these parasites that leach that energy from your system. It manifests itself, like I said earlier, in brain fog and lethargy. It causes people to feel more tired, again, because parasites act as a drain on our bodily functions. And I think those are really the things that a lot of people sort of normalize, to my point, Todd, which is kind of crazy. You think about these conditions, like you shouldn't have to live like this, and it's not normal.
Very interesting. So what is the wellness company doing for that? I mean, what do you offer in that space?
Yeah, we come up with a proprietary blend of ivermectin and mebendazole, the 2 drugs that I referenced earlier. Mebendazole is actually very hard to come by. We were fortunate enough to import over half a ton of mebendazole a couple months ago, right before the tariffs took into effect. So we dodged a bullet with that one.
Sure.
But we compound them in our 50-state licensed pharmacy here in Florida. The drugs are all prescribed by one of our 50-state licensed doctors, and it's really led to some spectacular results.
Talking about re-engineering a lot of healthcare, you mentioned drugs that are, repurposed. What else is the wellness company doing? I mean, you have some subscriptions that give, and I'm not sure of all of it, that essentially take some of the pricing out of the drugs that people may use on a regular basis. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, we have a lot of things going on, Todd. I think you mentioned kind of our membership program, which is really meant for people who are already on a supplement regime or medication regime, and they just want to be able to save money. It allows you to save 15% off site-wide every single day. The other big area that we've been very successful in this spring is rethinking weight loss. So everybody kind of over the past year has gotten nuts with these weight loss injections. It's quite kind of bad for you, and you've probably seen the headlines about the downsides of things like Ozempic and semaglutide, right? The real issue here is that you have users that are injecting high dosage of this medicine into their abdomen once a week. You get a giant spike in active ingredients, and then it kind of tails off over the week. You experience effects like nausea and vomiting. It can be quite unpleasant, and it can lead to gut motility and some of these other Ozempic face, which you've heard of, which is due to kind of muscle wasting because you're not getting enough calories. So we're rethinking weight loss. One way we've done it is we've actually developed a proprietary oral version of semaglutide. We have it in a spray. It comes in a bottle. It's an appetite suppressant. So you get hungry in the middle of the afternoon, rather than going and getting that Frappuccino, you squirt it in your mouth. It'll relieve your hunger for 2 to 3 hours.
Interesting.
Right? So it really gives you a new way to experience some of these tools that can help you lose weight without really the drastic side effects that you get from things like injections, which are really the more dangerous route for many people.
Staying on drugs, President Trump has signed an executive order allegedly will reduce prescription prices. Do you see that being effective? I mean, there's a lot of voices on either side of that issue. How do you see that playing out?
Fundamentally, Todd, this is an insurance question, right? And I think a lot of people just say, "Oh, President Trump is unilaterally lowering drug prices." I wish that were the case, but that might have been true if this was Stalin's Russia, but this is the United States of America. So the way that we can manipulate prices is through Medicare, which drives most of the drug purchases in the U.S. And we're talking about drugs that are typically prescribed for chronic conditions, things like statins, that sort of thing, blood pressure medications, hypertension. So while Trump can start mandating the way that the government is reimbursing for those drugs, which saves the government money, and that can be hopefully passed on to the consumer, which is the goal. At the end of the day, cash pay for drugs has always been radically cheaper than going through insurance, because you cut out 20 different middlemen along the way who get their cut. And that's really what Trump is trying to do, is for consumers that are not relying on cash pay medications, he is trying to cut out middlemen, which is a good thing.
It is a good thing. What about politically? How are you being received in DC? Because you're upsetting some apple carts in the medical community. I mean, what's the political reaction from both sides of the aisle that the wellness company is experiencing?
Well, by and large, I think on the right side of the aisle, it's been overwhelmingly positive. Obviously, I mentioned the incident we had with Callie Means last week, and I expect this to be resolved very quickly. But look, MAHA is here to stay. And I think both Democrats and Republicans are kind of agreeing on that fact. We saw from the COVID pandemic that people are just mistrustful of doctors and the medical establishment. They are actively seeking alternatives, things that they were told for their whole lives, Todd, that are snake oil or woo-woo, functional medicine, chiropractic care, all of these things which actually do have a lot of data and backing, but just aren't mainstream. Supplementation. So we've seen a big wave of people being curious about these solutions, and honestly, people trying it and having great results. So I'm really positive that we're going to see a continued growth in this area. I think the wellness company is going to be one of many companies that stands to be a potential solution provider in this space. And I'm really excited to see what the next few years hold for the U.S.
Peter, thank you for your time. I really wanted to talk to you about the Casey Means thing, but as that develops, we'll stay on top of it and maybe have you back if there's a development in that space. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Todd.
All right, take care. Bye. Well, I thought that was an interesting interview.
It is a very interesting interview. And, Mr. Gillooly has indeed been engaged with us along with the rest of his team, Dr. McCullough and others. And I'm glad we're there to dig into this and find out the facts.
Yeah, and just get the facts out there. And I want to make an announcement. It happened in the first interview on the show today. Somehow all of our investigative links on the Georgia Record were broken. So we had to run program here to reprogram that live. So that's been done. So if you were trying to get
Investigative links, are we talking about the links to the data?
links to stories on our kind of investigative stories, so a lot of those were broken. So not all of them, but a lot. But we figured out what it was and fixed it. So anyway, if you've tried to get into, like we posted something on the Fulton County Trust stuff, all those links were broken, but they're fixed now, so you can get in and find those. So just wanted to put that out, Bill. Anyway, that's why I was kind of like not paying attention the first couple interviews there.
You know, something comes to mind. When do you take flak, Todd?
Yes, exactly. Right over the target. So
that's exactly right.
You know what? But we've got a great team on the back end, and thanks to all our supporters and all our viewers. And you know, I had as I said earlier, I had a guy say, you know, I'd really like to, you know, his words were, you put out an article with all saying there was a lot of information on, you know, Kemp and other things, and I said, he's like, but where is it? And I said, dude, we've had the Georgia Record for 4 years. It's all there. All the Georgia shows. And he's like, oh, really? So people are still finding out about this show and about the GeorgiaRecord.com. So please tell your friends, share the links, and help us get out there. Sign up for our social media, CDM1 on Rumble, YouTube, Georgia Record on X. Thank you for your support.
That's great. All right. So you're up tomorrow morning with the Skiff, yes?
Yeah, we're going to have a bang up week. I've got David Clements coming on first hour, and second hour I've got Tui from South Africa. I forget his last name. Because we're working on some big stories on South Africa and the US. So we'll look for that going forward. But we've got him coming on second hour. I've got Roger Stone on Wednesday. I mean, because guess what? Vendeman is going to look to run for Senate in Florida. And Stone texted me and he's like, I got to come on the show. I'm going to destroy this guy. So, so that's going to be Wednesday. So look forward to that.
Wow.
And just a lot of good guests coming on the Skiff Monday through Friday, 10 to 12, the best intelligence show you will find. We're different than anyone else. We're just we want to make you the smartest guy at the water cooler at work or around the dinner table or at church. And you'll know more than anyone if you watch this. And you can get it on podcast and speed it up, but it's Monday through Friday, 10 to noon Eastern, here on CDM and all our channels. Thanks, Bill.
Wow. All right. We'll see you back with the Georgia show Wednesday evening at 7, and we'll I'm sure have plenty to discuss. See you then.
Yes.